Institutional integrity is the backbone of a functioning society, and Nigeria's institutions are no exception. However, the country faces a significant challenge in building trust in its institutions. Several factors contribute to this trust deficit, including corruption, lack of transparency and accountability, inefficiency, and incompetence. Is there any respite for institutions in Nigeria, one may ask? And issue of transparency. Has transparency become too expensive a commodity to acquire presently? This is the Eastern Eye. I'm Alex Obodo. Eastern Eye, a program that X-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. Joining me tonight is Dr. Stan Ukeje. He's a development economist and public policy analyst. Thank you so much, Dr. Ukeje, for joining me tonight on the Eastern Eye.
Thank you, Alex, for inviting me.
So, it looks like everywhere you turn, there is a question mark about various institutions, especially institutions that are supposed to give credence to other institutions. Why is this a big challenge in Nigeria?
It just has to be because of the paths along which we have been traveling. We had institutions before the Europeans happened on us, and they forced their own institutions on us. To cope, a lot of lacks and not fit for use behavior were introduced. You can imagine that in the early 20th century, when people were being employed, maybe in the railways, post and telegraphs, they required literacy and some level of ability to speak English or keep records. A lot of people didn't have that capacity in the coal corporation, in the Nigerian railways, but those who are insiders help their relations in. Either they claim that he has school certificates, or if somebody is dead, they can bring his certificate and give it to somebody who is living. So it's been with us, but maybe at a lower level. But the one that we are experiencing now is because the communications have become wider. So we know what is happening. You know, if somebody has, if somebody picks somebody's pockets in Port Harcourt, it's reported on the social media, and then you see it. Say, hey, look at this man. He had a pickpocket in before it was happening. But the Nigerian Biafran War was a very rude shock to people. Those of us who were at that time, if you had the kind of promotional songs that soldiers sang, you know that a lot of things had become bad. One of the things that I encountered after the war, which we didn't encounter before, was the tendency for people to occupy positions for which they are not qualified. You know, when the Eastern region people left service, a lot of people filled their position. People who attended commercial school, who attended all kinds of, were put in. They occupied the position. Those who survived the war, they couldn't displace those people who took their position. So it's, and then all kinds of things, young soldiers, 20s, 30s, were commanders. The people who should have governed them were no longer in the army. They had killed them. So the young subalterns who became commanders were doing They were drunk. They could give away weapons. Some of them kidnapped women, kept them as wives. Even if you go around the country now, there are some people from the north who married Igbo girls by force, and they are still with them. I think about 5 years ago or so, in Bayelsa, there was a boy from Kano that lured a girl who was in secondary school and forced her to marry and took her to the emir's palace. And people were just debating it as if the emir had the power to grant marriages without the consent of the girl and her parents. But these are the outcome of war. You know, if you defeat people in a war, you no longer look at them as equals. You know, if people engage in rape, looting of people's property, taking off, go to libraries, carry off books there, carry it to your house. When I was in secondary school in the 70s, soldiers were living in batches, in Bacha. They lose roofing sheet from people's houses and use it to build a Bacha. As I was passing by what they call Mami Market, I saw the photograph of, a wedding photograph of a man and his wife, who are not the soldiers living in that, but these are people who came from villages. When they enter people's houses, they saw framed pictures. That is how modern people
should be.
He took the picture and kept it in his bacha.
Just to give it a home feel.
Good, you know, he had a feeling that there was a wedding picture, even if it's not his own. They carry cushion from people's houses, sat on it. You know, as the war ended, you could be passing with your sister, or the soldiers will just grab them and take them away. There's nobody you could report to. Such dramatic changes, they don't peter out in time. And those who benefited from radical or rascally changes want to sustain it. If you drive along major highways, maybe Enugu to Port Harcourt, Enugu maybe to Abuja, along these routes you find these trucks owned by northern people. Anywhere you find northerners settled, whatever they are doing there, you will have people who sell diesel in drums. When the road tankers are passing, they stop and drain the diesel from the tank for their friends, because they are helping them, their townspeople, their colleagues. Sometimes they drain to them and also buy from them. They are keeping them busy. The people who say they are inspecting the downstream, upstream, middle stream, they see those things, but they don't bother because they themselves maybe are holding their position irregularly. You follow what I'm saying? Now, at different levels, you hear of chairman of local government, governor, president, which was not the case. When Chief Udoji was secretary to government, I mean, you knew that Udoji was there. You couldn't push him around. When Zik was premier, I was a baby that time, but I never read anywhere that he countermanded a permanent secretary, because he himself was very educated. He was an assistant professor in the US. He would have even done his PhD if he wasn't interested in Nigeria's independence. When Emma Akbara was there, nobody had that permanent secretary was suspended, or the divisional officer that we knew as local government head was a civil servant. You don't, there are things that were standardized by the 1960s. By 1970, it completely changed. If you knew an army commander after the war, you become rich. When they were building barracks for the soldiers, it was the commanders that were issuing the contracts. Somebody was maybe 32. By the time of the first school, maybe he was about 27. He went to the war, killed people, looted their property, then he doesn't know the rules about how, he has never attended commanding officers' course, staff officers' course, to know how things are done. He just says, give it to Mr. A. Whether Mr. A finishes the job or doesn't finish it doesn't concern him. He's a victor, he's a champion. It has pettered down to universities. I myself, I read economics not because I didn't have an idea of what economics was, but in my secondary school, it was a grammar school. We did, sciences and arts, classics. But when Asika's regime started merging schools under the pressure from the federal government, because they didn't want the churches to be owning the schools, they took them over. A school that was merged with my own, they were studying economics or commerce there. So they introduced the course. A tutor who was teaching us physics gave me a free book in economics. So I read it and I found it interesting. So in my class 3 or 4, I started reading economics. I bought Hansen, and that is how I came to be, get interested in economics. A lot of things went wrong. In those days, if you finish secondary school, in your school, maybe the school knew you from class 1 to 5. If you are good, they can retain you as a teacher. But, you will be working under graduate teachers. After the war, what was known as G4 emerged. They say it's government class 4. It was something that people were using in other regions, which didn't exist in the Eastern region. But trust our people. If you teach them how to work, they will teach you how to run. So people who are now manufacturing G4, use it to join the civil service, they become clerical assistants, Somebody will join with G4, they will struggle to be promoted to clerical officer, which requires secondary school. But at the federal level, my experience was that people from other regions, including the Western region that was supposedly educationally advanced, were allowed to enter some occupation or careers with that G4 or even standard 6. But people from East Central States were required to have school certificates. And if you are taking the exam, but the result is not out, if you give them the statement of result from your school, they will reject it. They will treat you as if you are attempted WAEC. So if it took 2 years for your certificate to come out, you will be a subordinate person. We didn't have the political clout to challenge it. And that's why you find that in the military, the police, and some federal engagements like customs, immigration, many people from the old East Central States didn't last there. Because when you come with a degree, you will find, or a certificate, you will find people who had less than your certificate as your peers. And you compete with them for promotion. No preference is given to that your higher qualification. Man, no man became the issue. So when they are either subordinated or quarantined or overtaken by grouping, they leave either to go to higher studies or go to other occupations, So the war is something that we are underplaying. If you could conscript people, I went to the funeral of one of my contemporaries at the university on Friday. In the brochure, I read that he himself, the deceased, and his immediate younger brother, who is a reverend father, in fact, he's a very reverend father, an old priest, were conscripted when they went to collect relief in their hometown in Antihiala, and they were forced to undergo military training. He's not alive now. I would have asked him, how did you survive the experience? So the institutions you are talking about are maybe in the books. You have laws that people don't believe in. You make that law. I was around town today. I saw armed policemen armed with automatic rifles, backing people demanding payment for signage. Something as simple as, have you paid for this signage? Like if you're answering Mr. Eastern Eye, and you wrote it there, they should just give you a letter saying, this Eastern Eye, when they do put it, you should pay this according to this law. We will come back next week. But armed policemen, not one, not two. If somebody is killed whether intended or not intended, it will be taken off. People will say, yeah, but you should have known that they are armed and you should have settled them.
All right, but let's take a look at what are the things that can strengthen transparency in the institutions, because you've cited some of the reasons why there's been an erosion of integrity in some of our institutions. But how can those institutions be strengthened to promote transparency and accountability?
You need to go back. But people who are falsely or improperly in front will not allow it. Now, if you see soldiers or policemen on parade, they know that there could be about on, right on, left on. But in this system in which we are now, if you say about on, the people in front will not allow it because they are not properly in front. Let's take an example now, Alex. Two of us, we speak English as if we are English men. If there is a resolution that everybody in Enugu State who works in any organization should speak and write in Igbo, speak Igbo and write in Igbo, you know that two of us will go to the back.
Well,
you may claim that you write Igbo, eh?
Well, it's not a claim, but speaking for oneself.
I'm telling
my
you
Igbo is just to put it out there.
I will make a claim.
But I understand.
Yes.
I understand the point you're making, so that they don't assume I can't speak Igbo. I'm just putting it out there. I'm a Igbo. Continue.
So that's the situation, really. So if you now say that the English we are using have left so many people behind, this program you are on now, there are people who may be watching, but they don't understand the issue. But they are hoping that somebody around will tell them what the issues are. And this is when they say the president is making a broadcast, governor is, many people either will look at the picture or go their way. They will say, by and by, I will know what the man said. What did he say about supply of water? What did he say about it? They say he didn't mention it. Say, what was he talking about then? That's their interest. So, those who are wrongly in front will not allow change. The armed forces, at the time, since the 1970s or late 80s, you need West African school certificates to go to NDA. Teachers grade 2 is not West African school certificate because the subject studied there is not grammar school. But Buratai was a teacher training, he had TC2. How did he get to the army to rise to become a chief of army staff? To my knowledge, apart from Obunaya, the man from Ziobe, the Inspector General of Police, yeah. Then the first IG under Ambassador Smith, Arase. These are people who went to university under normal circumstances before joining the police. All the others, either evening law, you are in Enugu, you intimidate the university, and they allow you to register as evening law. Even if you don't attend class, people will be writing for you. When you enter the class, they will say, Sean. Then you come and distribute money to them. He goes to law school, the same thing. He doesn't attend fully. You are supposed to attend fully, but because he's a police big man, nobody challenges him. He has certificate that he's a lawyer. Military, the same thing. IBM Haruna, I think he's a lawyer. During the Oputa panel, he represented the North. He's a lawyer, but we knew him as a soldier. Where did he register to read law? But his performance there showed, that there was something left for him to fill up. So at different levels, you find people who are not supposed to be teaching. Somebody is a professor, you saw them during INEC presentation. Somebody can count in millions. You are asked to say this is the total votes for governorship. Given what we got from these senatorial districts, a professor, you are not supposed to be an expert in announcing statistics, but you should know how to know things. You said, can I get the fundamental papers? Say, having gone through from person A, person B, person C, I find that simple. You are not taking a claim, but some of them are vice chancellors, and all the struggle for vice chancellorship is for the next election. And there is no law saying that university people must be electoral officers. But anywhere you make an attempt to put things well, the same bad people grab it and turn it to their... I'm not manufacturing this. A retired judge of the Supreme Court said that after Obi was found to be properly elected after his impeachment, I think he was impeached twice, that all politicians now want to place their own lawyers, their own judges and the seats against contention, and they have been seeing it. I saw on television now that the INEC chairman is...
he's handed over. Yes.
If it's an independent body, he doesn't need to be instructed to leave. But he himself, a professor of history, the tribunal, after the election of 2023, asked him to come and testify. He neither came nor said he will not come, but nothing happened. So the decisions you are talking about are behaviors that are legal. So some people are above the law. So the law is in their pocket. They use it to clean their mouth.
So that's a lot you've said in this session. And let's take a look at how civic engagement and participation in governance can help build trust in Nigeria's institutions. Since there is a battle for the soul of all these institutions, who occupies them? Being a vice chancellor is now for you to do some electoral work. But shouldn't it be much more than that? Because our universities should be citadel of learning, not necessarily where the vice chancellors reign supreme. How do we make sure that, for instance, if you need a document from a university or any tertiary institution, a matter of fact, any academic institution, that the process will be seamless? It's not something that will create the kind of ruckus we are currently witnessing.
It is the same shock that we have experienced since after the war. Now, assuming I want to get my transcript from the University of Ibadan, I graduated there in 1980. If I write the letter, I don't expect the Vice Chancellor to respond. The response will come from the admissions office or the records. It could be an assistant director that will respond, because that is his schedule. If I write the Vice Chancellor, University of Ibadan, if the letter ever gets to him, but he may not get it because there is a mail system, when they open it, they look at the subject. It doesn't require the VC's attention. They just mean it, registrar, academics. They look at it. Say, first of all, investigate that the person who is writing this letter was our student. They take it to records, they confirm. Stan Ukeje was admitted 1977, graduated 1980. Director records, deal. He moves it to assistant director. A clerk will bring the file. Check. Say yes, he was there, but he has not paid for this requirement. Did he put his telephone number? Did he call him or write back? Say, we have found your records. We shall send it as soon as you pay to the bursary. The cost of mailing should also be paid. Simple. We have two choices. Either you give us the money or we deliver it through DHL and you will pay on receipt. Very things that should be happening every day. But many people are no longer in office, they are in power. Very routine things are turned to power. In the universities, many people who should be professors are left behind because you don't go to the staff club, you don't belong to one particular church or sect. When there is a vacancy for professorship, either they recruit somebody from outside or you apply. When they see that you are very qualified, they just keep your letter. They won't post it. Or if somebody had made the mistake of posting it to the people who will evaluate your work, when the result come back and you are not in their good books, they will keep it in the file. Because if you go to the office of the Vice Chancellor or DVC academics to ask, what is the effect of, they say, are you teaching us your work? Go on to your department. If you don't like, you can go out. That's what you will do. Because those who are aligned against you are in the system. If you see even the military, you see some people who are very competent. After some time, they go because the system has blocked them. They take exam, major, captain to major. People who don't pass, they get promoted. They say they are filling their state quota. When they are now faced with assignments, they ask for money and embezzle the money because they don't know what to do. All the problem we're having, most soldiers, army officers level, ought to be map readers. They ought to have the map of the area there, so that if there's a hill, there's a cave, they already knew it during their training. These are the places where insurgents are likely to stay. But they will be bombing innocent people in their market. That's the result of failed institutions. But like I said, you need to go back. You need to go back in time. Say, where did we miss the road?
That's right. And we'll get back to that road because we're about to go on a break. When we return from that break, we'll have to retrace the steps and find out, like they say around here, where the rain started beating us. Stay tuned to the Eastern Eye. We'll be right back. Eastern Eye here on Afia TV, a program that x-rays the political, social, and economic developments around us. I still have Dr. Stan Ukeje here with me, and we talked about retracing the steps. Where did it all start going wrong? If you need your certified true copy of your certificate, you write to the university and you get it. So if the university responds to you to the contrary, what would lead you to argue with the university? Shouldn't the university have the final say as to who attended the institution or not? How did we come to the point where you actually have to take the university to court to ascertain whether you attended that institution?
Alex, I say we are in deep trouble. Because if I say go back in time, while I was an undergraduate, there was an undergraduate who was using a Renault car. The wardens in our hall knew him. It was said that he entered the university to study medicine, human medicine. He didn't make the second MB, so he switched to vet medicine. It was also tough for him. When he couldn't make progress, he went to physiology also. Not was he has stayed in the university for a long time, trying to find a way. Why did he do those things? The university itself had a metric. If you failed the second MB, you have to repeat. If you are not prepared to repeat, you can go to a related department. And when you apply, it's assumed that you are starting all over again. I had a person who entered the university to study a particular program. But the people sponsoring you, your parents, your relations, also have a responsibility to know whether you are making progress.
That's
and if you are not making progress, they will advise you. Those sponsoring students in the university ought to demand their performance, evidence of their performance. And if they refuse to give it, you go to the university because you are paid. When you go to the department, you will find out the person's status. And if the status is such that the person will not graduate, you get the person to write a letter saying, I'm going to change. Because if you, maybe you are studying medicine 6 years or 7 years, if you don't have a chance of graduating in 7 years or 8, you better apply to withdraw and come back. Because if you write a letter of withdrawal and the university accepts it, when you come back, it's granted that you are given time to remedy your carryover and then complete the uncompleted courses. But you must have the presence of mind. That's why I'm telling you that we need to go back. Many people at the university, they are being sponsored by people, but those people sponsoring them have no idea or do not require them to submit evidence of performance. I have a relation who went to a university, and I asked him, can I get your results? He said, no, the head of department, who is a Ghanaian, had taken the papers when he comes back. I was a lecturer at the university. I had, become, I was a student. I never knew of any system, including a seminary, where a head of department can carry the results to his own country. Where is your result? Say the head of department is a Ghanaian, he has traveled. But if the parents are none the wiser, or they don't do what they ought to do, we need to really go back. And given the state of knowledge today, so many things that are being studied in the schools ought to be removed. Sometimes you find children taking the exam, 15 papers in one class. What are they studying? Some of those things are known outside. That is why you develop curriculum. You remove what is already known and study what is unknown. The University of Nigeria, Nsukka, it was the first university in Nigeria set up by law. That was a written law. And when the military started building universities, I think 6 new universities, Maiduguri, Ilorin, Port Harcourt, what they did was to take the University of Nigeria law, cross out Nsukka, put Ilorin, cross out Nsukka, put Port Harcourt, put Jos, like that, because it was well structured. Now, one of the things I find funny is that the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, has, I think they call it School of General Studies. That school was meant for a time. It was meant for a time in the 60s. In that period, people who went to university are people who had done HSC. But there were few schools that were doing HSC. 1. 2, there were few people who were capable of doing HSC.
HSC, yeah.
There were also people who were capable of doing HSC but had no sponsors.
So HSC is like A-level, isn't it?
Yes. Now,
it's the equivalent of A-level.
Good. But the Eastern region had an idea. Zeke himself said, look, if we wait for HSC, we will not get the manpower required. But we have a lot of teacher training. People who went to PTC, this, before they got to TC2. Let's encourage them. What we will do is that we set up a school of general studies to fill in the gap they don't have. Because they didn't study biology, they didn't study chemistry, they were doing ancient history, Christian religious knowledge, in the teaching, and arithmetic, they didn't do maths. So it was like, furnishing them with what they didn't have. Now that you have people with grammar school, why are you still having? But if you go there, you will find people reading Things Fall Apart. No longer at ease. In the School of General Studies. Something that I read when I was in primary school. And a lot of people are in the university, they are not passing because they are held back by the School of General Studies, which is not a graduating faculty. In the universities, and that disease has spread to many other universities, but I know when I was in Ibadan, we didn't have that kind of system. You had interdisciplinary courses. If you are in economics, you can take sociology courses on your own. Go to computer science, take a course. Then go to mathematics, take a course. and go. But you are primarily an economic student. But Nsukka had that kind of mishmash. Somebody was doing microbiology with chemistry, this and that, combined all of us. But it was for a time. It shouldn't be continuing now. But the people who are in charge, whether they are politicians or administrators, are not prepared to say that this is wrong. Because that School of General Studies is a gravy trade. If I'm a vice chancellor and I put Alex as director of General Studies, you will go to Onitsha and get printers to print things fall apart for you. And then you post it on students. Eze goes to school. People are in the university. Since it has spread, it has become a problem. And because the civil service everywhere has collapsed or has been suppressed, when you write letters, how many people write letters these days? You need to, so you find that anybody who says, I want my records of the university, you don't just sit down somewhere and write a letter. You go to the university and say, look, I want my records. Because even if you did not pass, the records of what you did is there. That's the record they will give you. They can't give you anything other than what is in the records.
So, but the big question here is, why is it a problem? Why would someone get into, if you like, legal altercation with the university? The university says, you did not graduate, and you're saying, I graduated, and the matter is in court.
It is not, these things are not new. You are talking about institutions. There was a governor in Cross River State. He claimed to be a lawyer, but ABU say he didn't graduate. But he continued. My worry really, when I hear some of these things, is why is it that people are not advising themselves? You don't. First of all, before you can take advice, you must be able to advise yourself. You follow? Yeah. Assuming that when I leave this studio now, you call me and say, my pen, did you take it? I will tell you, I didn't take your pen, I came with my own. What's the color of your pen? But if you make it an issue, and I know a pen is 200 naira, I can buy a packet and give it to your receptionist. Say, please give Alex this packet of pens and die the matter. But if I go to the social media to attack you, then it means I have not advised myself. Because you have greater reach. You are better known than myself. You have a media face. People can swear that they know you to be an honest person. I have all the people coming here. Why should I be the person accused of taking pen? So you need to advise yourself. It's happening everywhere. I did a study at the University of Lagos, and a project I wrote, which my supervisor, Mr. Sika, commended. It was about the organization design of a teaching hospital. I think there's a problem about people who claim that their relation died at UNCH. I found out that there is a committee in every teaching hospital, or even a large hospital, called Medical Advisory Council. It's like an audit body. Whether you complain or not, all records come to them. And the person who is the chairperson should be a staunch, brilliant, dedicated medical physician. So, assuming that I go there and I have malaria, and somebody gives me aspirin, and aspirin has already been prescribed, but it's now prescribed for me and administered, they will go through the records, and once they see aspirin, they say, yes, what happened? Head of pharmacy, are you still stocking aspirin here? Physician, I may be alive. They may, protect themselves, but they will now raise it and send a circular. No more admission of aspirin. If the dosage is high, they may ask the public relations officer to trace me They may not tell me that the problem. They say, oh, you were here last month, we want to see how you're doing. Please come to whenever you come again or come, we need to have a handshake with you. They may take blood to see whether something has gone wrong or is going wrong. But you find that because people are in power and not in office, I've never heard about Medical Advisory Council. Alex, things have gone wrong. At this time I was telling you, I think Buhari was in power as a military head of state in 1984-85. Because of the war, this war I've talked about, many people from Eastern region ran away from the country. The university started admitting people who are not qualified. Instead of pre-admission qualification, people now had post-graduation qualification. People without English and maths were admitted in universities. So people read medicine without having credits in mathematics. It was said that maths is not a requirement or not very important for medicine. But when doctors went on strike under Buhari as military head of state, and Ukeje Kuti was the Minister of Health, he knew because he was in the university. He said, don't mind those people, that some of the resident doctors have 3 years to finish their residency program. But they have been there for 9 years going on strike every day. Now what we are going to do is that we should ask them, all of them, to present their West African school certificates. Alex, I saw doctors writing GCE in December. They were told they were given 1 year to produce what they should have provided before admission. We are really going to go back. If there is a reverse gear, to go to 1960 and then consider whether Nigeria should continue or not continue.
So we should yeah, I mean, you think we should do a reverse time travel? Go back into time.
I'm sure we are in a digital age now.
And maybe about the coup of January 1966.
Yes, I can become a baby and I'll start taking breast milk again if my mom can wake up.
But I mean, do you think that maybe if that coup did not happen, I've asked this question on this platform a few more times, if that coup of 1966, pardon me for sounding like this, especially for those watching us, if that coup did not happen, do you think Nigeria could have been different?
Certainly. Because you are talking about institutions. No matter how bitter you are as a soldier, whatever you see, it is not your duty. You are in office as a soldier. But you are now assuming power. You kill your seniors, you kill ministers. I mean, if you read Ademola Ademoyega's book, you will find that those soldiers, okay, Ademola was different because he was a graduate. And he said he entered the army for revolution. He arrested Ukeje, Sir Abubakar, and a few other officers. When he discovered that they couldn't arrest Hiroshi, he knew that the coup was failing. He ordered his men to kill those people that have arrested. He should have released them. But it is that assumption of power instead of being in office. When you miscalculate, you confess, you surrender. It could have been treated differently. Many of them were not educated enough to know the implication of what they were doing. You know? That's why some people are always careful in judging. In some countries, like I think the Pope Leo XIV said that the US, if they are serious about protecting life, should abolish death penalty. Because if somebody is accused of killing somebody and is found guilty and killed, maybe later it was found that he was not the actual person, you can't remedy it. But some people will say, what of the justice for the person killed? It is continuing. If you go to the road now and the policeman stops you and you ask him, why are you asking? You say, why are you teaching me my work? But the work is a public work, not his personal work. He is exercising power, not the duties of his office. The old police that we knew, like the people I told you who are backing up revenue officers, they ought not to go with rifles. They should go with a baton. And they should be very civil. Because if somebody has put Eastern Eye as his business and the police know that Eastern Eye is authorized only for this television, they should just take note of the place and then come back. But you don't have to fire in the air and cock rifle.
Just before we go, have a few minutes to go. Is it the healthiest pathway for issues like this? Is there, if there's an issue between university or there's an electoral problem, the courts will now decide them? I mean, how long will that continue? The courts will pretty much decide everything. What is authentic? What is original? What is fake? So we have to depend on the court's interpretation to know what is fake, what is original, what is authentic, who attended where and who did what. In just 2 minutes and a half, do you think that this is the best way forward?
Alex, you are being fair to the courts because the courts have the same problem. Everything that the court is going to adjudicate is based on the Evidence Act, whether it is criminal or civil. Take me, for instance, now. If I file a case in court that I lost my car, and the car is Lamborghini, it doesn't need to get to the judge. Once I finish filing, the registrar should even call me. I say, "Okay, what do you say you lost? Lamborghini. What's the registration number?" Can you attach the papers for the vehicle? Customs, this, and then I begin to bring one that is cancelled. Instead of 504, you turn it to Lamborghini. You know, it will tell you that this matter cannot. But anyway, you are paid. You will take it to the judge. The judge should not call anybody. It should call you in open court and tell you that this matter, there is no proof that you have a Lamborghini. Where do you live? At Ukeje. Is that where you are driving the Lamborghini in? Registrar, ask the chief medical officer to examine him to know whether he's mentally fit. But many things in courts ought not to be there because the primary evidence required, but the courts themselves are part of the problem. It's not everything. Look at the United States. How many cases are filed against Trump? But they are decided in 1 week because they look at the substance. But here we'll put a quo warranto quo, writ of summons of writ, and people are wasting time. And Alex, we have a problem. You may hire a lawyer to do a job to represent you. He colludes with the person you are suing. And you find that a matter that is straight becomes, twisted. Two of them agreed to delay the matter every day. I need 5,000 naira to go to this, to go to that. It's a problem. Both law, evidence, norms have collapsed. They have collapsed everywhere.
On that very shaky note, unfortunately, we'll have to end the program. We're out of time. I have to thank you, Dr. Stan Ukeje. He's a development economist and public policy analyst. Thank you for your insights on the Eastern Eye tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Alex Obodo. Good night.